Welcome to the wonderful world of wine. We are your hosts, Mark Lindsay and Kim Simone, exploring all things wine with you. You can find us on Facebook at The Wonderful World of Wine. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. Kim and I are here to talk all things wine with you. And today we are very excited. We are going to do a Halloween candy pairing show. You excited, Kim?
Very special episode. Very special holiday episode tonight.
We always run ideas by each other. And I said, Halloween is here. So we have to talk about pairing wine with Halloween candy or candy in general. And Kim, we haven't talked how we pick these or anything. We might have some duplicates. I don't think so, because I'm so much older than Kim. I had flashbacks when I was a kid and what was in my little pumpkin bucket and what I would want to pair with those childhood candies now with wine. And that's how I kind of approached it. What about you, Kim? How did you approach it? Popular things?
I kind of approached it from what do I usually see in my kids' buckets when they get home. So I didn't want to do things that you wouldn't ordinarily see coming in, after a couple of hours wandering through the neighborhood on Halloween night. I didn't want to go too out there, although I have to say, after I tasted a number of my wines with the candies that I had chosen, it made me think of other things, not necessarily Halloween specific candies, but like other candy that would work. And I was like, oh, maybe I should go out and get some of that. But it's like, there's no way that anybody would drop that in your Halloween basket ever. Like this is like, higher end chocolates with different flavors and things like that. So I'm like, no. I'm just going to stick with, so not only, popular things that you could be getting on Halloween night, 2021, but also things that I felt like I could find appropriate pairings for. So I did buy some other candy that didn't make the cut that now my kids get to eat. But
basically this is a list of things you steal from your kids' candy and eat with your wine, right? Is that what you kind of make up?
That's kind of how like what is on, what will be on hand Halloween night and for the week after. Exactly.
And I'm sure our listeners, I've seen it over the years many times on like Pinterest and Instagram and Facebook, these charts. It says, pair this with that. And everybody does a different one of those. I mean, you've seen them, right, Kim? They're out there. So we figure we make our own version of that pairing today on the show. So do you want to go first, Kim, with one? And we have to say now, if I had it on my list, I'll just tell you what I pair with it. But I'm really going to be surprised if we have the same candies.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. So I did these pairings a couple of days ago. And now I am refreshing my mind. So in front of me, I have a plate of candy and a couple of little glasses of wine. I think I need to give a little bit of explanation as to why I chose the wines that I chose, because I am not one who finds much pleasure in pairing dry wines with sweet foods. And those of you who have been listening to the show for a long time know that about me. So I went the dessert wine route. And I don't know, I'm assuming that is not the route that you went, Mark, because I know that you are okay with dry wines and making some more interesting pairings. I kind of played it safe and went with dessert wines in a variety of styles and then tried to pair them with different fun candies.
Which is the traditional, what you're supposed to do.
Which is the traditional way.
Sweet.
So I think that I am a traditionalist when it comes to this. But I did do one thing different. So most of my pairings I feel are fairly traditional, except I did break my rule for my first pairing. And I went with a dry wine and a sour candy. So I did a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc with Sour Patch Kids.
Wow.
And I wanted to love it. And I just don't. Like, I feel like it works, but the candy makes the wine just a little too bitter. And then I was thinking, well, maybe it's the sweetness that's making the wine bitter. So I took one and I just sucked off the sour stuff and then had the wine, and it still was the same experience. So, I think it's fine, but it's not a wow, I would do this again kind of a pairing.
So the acid and the sour kind of
I think play. I don't know what made it not work. The candy stayed fine. Like nothing bad happened with the flavor of the candy. It was just that the wine ended up tasting bitter.
Have you ever seen anything posted what they recommend to pair with Sour Patch Kids?
No, I was thinking something high acid would be great, but that didn't work out for me.
Wow. So the first one was a bust.
First one was a little bit of a bust. I mean, it wasn't awful. It was just not what I was hoping for. Wow. So it's one of yours.
Well, once again, remind our listeners, I'm a lot older than Kim, so hopefully people can relate to these candies.
He keeps saying that. He's not that much older than me.
First off, I'm going to talk about a Charleston Chew.
That's the one that I brought home that I didn't think was going to go with anything.
Charleston Chew, a nougat covered in chocolate, right? And to me, it's almost like marshmallow and chocolate.
I love Charleston Chews.
I pair this with an oak Chardonnay, but not any oak Chardonnay, a toasted oak Chardonnay, a really, really oak Chardonnay. And it ends up being like a s'mores thing going on because
was it good?
Toastiness. It's really good.
Really you know good. What? If I had done another one, that's what I was going to do. That's why I got the Charleston Chews. I'm like, I would put this with a big oaky Chardonnay.
And Charleston Chews were a lot bigger when I was a kid too. They've, these mini things.
The mini ones.
Not the same. So that was my first one, Kim. What's your next one?
Well, I'm glad yours was super successful. Okay, so should I go by candy bar or should I go by wine? Because I have some overlap.
Well, yeah, go by candy bar.
Okay, so
that way we know if we have a duplicate.
Okay, so my second one, which I actually found a couple of good pairings for, were Snickers bars. Classic Snickers. And I found that the pairing of Snickers and a 10-year tawny port was excellent. And I can only imagine that a 20-year tawny would be even better because there's nuttiness and caramelliness and sometimes a little bit of chocolatiness in the port. And it was just lovely with the Snickers bar. So that is definitely a pairing that I would do again.
That sounds good.
It was really good. It was really good.
Yeah. Now I can relate to, I did have tawny port on one of my pairings, but with a different candy. You want to continue with your Snickers? Or you want me to tell you what I paired tawny port with?
I want to know if you had Snickers. Do you have Snickers on your plate?
I did not. No, I did not have
Snickers.
No.
I tried my Snickers with other things, and I would say that the port was the most successful of the pairings.
What other wines did you attempt?
I tried it with a Banyul, and I tried it with an Oloroso sherry, and neither of them were anywhere near as good as the port pairing.
So you know my theory on the peanut butter thing, right, Kim? Something grapey. So I would thought the Banyul would have worked because it would have a little bit more fruit.
Just wait.
But
you just wait.
Okay.
I've got more coming.
So that was it for Snickers bar?
So that was my Snickers. Yes. So far and away, the port was the winner with the pairing of Snickers. And now I'm looking at this piece of Snickers bar and I want to eat it again. I'm going to eat it now.
I'll keep with the tawny port. I paired tawny port with Milk Duds.
Oh.
Do you know Milk Duds, Kim?
Caramelly on the inside. Yes, Milk Duds. Sure.
Right. They come in a little box. Now you think the kids get like 2 little Milk Duds in a box.
I think so. It might be 4, but it's like not a lot of Milk Duds.
Milk Duds or malted milk balls also I feel work with tawny port because
they're very different from each other though.
The malted and the tawny and the nuttiness, I love that combination. So those were my tawny port pairings.
Wonderful.
With Milk Duds, mostly Milk Duds.
So I think I'm now going to jump to my best pairing of Halloween candy and wine. I'm just going to jump right to it.
Is it going to be a sparkling?
Oh God, no.
You said okay. No sparkling were on your list at all, huh?
No bubbles. I thought of doing a Moscato, but I could not think of Halloween candy that my kids could legitimately get in their baskets that would really go with Moscato. Because I feel like chocolate doesn't work with it. You would need something fruity. So there are a lot of desserts that would work, but not candy.
Well, I have one.
And not Halloween candy.
When you're done, I have one.
You have one? Oh,
that was one
maybe you're more creative than I.
No.
All right. So anyway,
the winner. What's your best one?
Of Halloween candies was definitely peanut butter cups. I had great pairings with peanut butter cups. I had two really wonderful pairings. So that Banyul that I had made the peanut butter cup taste like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Wow, that's interesting. But not with the Snickers bar.
So good. Not the Snickers bar.
Why do you think? Because the nougat in the Snickers bar?
I don't know.
That's interesting.
It might be because the peanut butter cups that I use were dark chocolate peanut butter cups. So maybe it's something with the dark chocolate.
To our listeners that maybe are not familiar with Banyuls, Kim,
yes.
I'm sure. Why don't you explain what it is, the profile?
Sure. So this is a wonderful sweet red wine from the south of France. It's not usually as high in alcohol as port. So port is usually about 19, 20, 21% because they add spirits to it to keep it stable and to kill off the fermentation activity so that you're left with sweetness and then also some higher alcohol. Banyul is not that way. It's about 16.5%. So it's about the same alcohol content as one of those big, powerful Zinfandels that we've spoken about before in other shows.
Half size bottle.
This one was a 500 milliliter that I had. You usually get them in slightly smaller format bottles, but it's, a rich, jammy, sweet, delicious red wine. And it's wonderful. And it was really great with a peanut butter cup. I mean, it was good with my Snickers, but it wasn't as nice of a pairing as with the peanut butter cup. And then I also did kind of the opposite end of the fortified / dessert wine spectrum. I did an Oloroso sherry with the peanut butter cup as well that had like overwhelming nuttiness to it. And I tend to sometimes like those pairings where you have the same flavor in the wine and the food. And I think the nuttiness of the sherry and the nuttiness of the peanut butter really played off of each other really well. So that was a surprising one because that's a little bit drier than the Banyul, but I was not expecting. The Banyul I actually brought home sort of on a whim because we had like just a couple of ounces left over from work. And I'm like, I'm going to bring this home and see how it goes with dessert and candy. And it worked really, really well. So I'm really pleased to have made that discovery.
I love Banyul's Chapoutier.
Yes, that's the one I'm drinking actually.
Is it with the Braille on the label?
With the Braille. Yep.
Yeah.
And this is 2017. So it's not super old either.
That's my go-to finishing of a meal at Davio's. I get a glass of Banyuls.
It's lovely.
That's good.
I'm going to have some right now.
Before we take a break, I'll tell you what I did pair my Moscato d'Asti with.
Yes, please.
Moscato d'Asti. Bitter honeys. You familiar with bitter honeys?
I am.
Old school. It's like an almond bits and honey taffy type of thing.
But there's no chocolate to it, right?
No chocolate. Correct.
I think that's the thing.
This is where I wanted to do sweetness. So like the Charleston Chew was kind of a pairing of the toastiness. The Milk Dud was a pairing of the caramel, and this one, bitter honey with Moscato d'Asti. Not the fully, we're not talking Asti Spumante. We're talking Moscato d'Asti, which is lower pressure, lower alcohol. It's like 5 to 5.5% alcohol, but sweet. So the sweetness to go with the honey, it's really good.
Wow.
It's an almond. Oh, it's good. So that's what I did with my Moscato. Now, we're not talking, again, not barefoot Moscato, not Sutter Home Moscato. Moscato from the Asti region in Italy. It's just a phenomenal pairing.
Thank you for listening today to The Wonderful World of Wine. And we are your hosts, Kim and Mark. You can find more information about Mark at his website, franklinliquors.com. And you can find my classes and events on commonwealthwineschool.com. And as always, every week you can listen to us on WFPR, Franklin Public Radio. Welcome back to our Halloween special. We are pairing wine with Halloween treats. And Mark and I have made some surprising and really wonderful discoveries about wine and Halloween candy pairings. So he's going a little more old school, and I'm taking advantage of what you might find in your kids' or your grandkids' Halloween pumpkins this year when they get home from trick-or-treating. So we've gone through a whole bunch of different things, and I think it's coming back to me.
Charleston Chew, Snickers, peanut butter cups,
peanut butter cups,
honey, Milk Duds. What do you got next, Kim?
So my next one is actually, I feel like a little bit of an old school candy. So I'm going to finish out with old school.
I'll let you know.
I had a Score bar. So the toffee and chocolate kind of like a Heath bar. This is a score bar.
Yeah.
I like toffee. I like caramel. And there are so many dessert wines that have those flavors to them that I thought this would be a complete no-brainer. But it turns out that the score bar is so sweet that I actually had a hard time finding a wine that would pair really nicely with it. I thought that the 10-year Tawny Port would be great, and it was just kind of meh. And I had a bottle of 10-year Bual Madeira. So this is when I took out my Madeiras, and the wine itself was just too acidic. When I started tasting it with all of the different candies that I had in front of me, I was rather distressed to find that it did not go with anything. It was just it had too much acidity to it. And that was very disappointing. And then I realized I had an open bottle of Malmsey Madeira on my bar.
Wow.
And I was like, let's try that instead. And there's the winner. Because
totally different styles.
Totally different styles, totally different grape varieties. The Malmsey is sweeter and richer and way less acidic. And that was the one that had those toffee, caramel, toasted almond kind of notes to it. So that's what made the much nicer pairing with my score bar, with my English toffee.
Let me ask you this, Kim. I didn't ask you in the beginning. What do you feel is the best way when you do a pairing like this? Because I have kind of my theory how I do it. Do you bite the candy first, or do you coat your mouth with the wine first? What did you feel? What did you feel, or what did you find was the best way to do that?
I would eat a piece of candy and then wash it down with the wine.
Okay. See, I take a sip of the wine.
You
first,
had the wine and then the candy.
And then I bite the candy. Yeah. See,
let me try that now and see how that goes.
Yeah, try that. Which one do you have?
So I have just a tiny little bit of the Malmsey left because there was like literally 2 ounces left in my bottle.
So coat your mouth with it.
Coat my mouth.
And I'm wondering if you did that with the Snickers bar with the Banyuls, if you coated your mouth with the Banyuls before you ate the Snickers bar, if it would work any different.
I feel like the candy overpowers the wine.
Really?
When I do it that way.
That's interesting. I just want kind of the listeners to get an idea of how different ways you can do it, when you're pairing like that.
When I do the wine after the candy, it brings out, specifically for me, the nutty element of the candy bar. So those like toasted almonds or whatever the heck they have in the score bar, I get a big hit of the nuttiness up front. And then the sort of almost like a feel of like caramel coating in the finish. And maybe that's just because the wine is dissipating, or because I've got caramel stuck in my teeth, or what. But I feel like I get more about the combination when I have the wine second.
It's good information.
Yep.
Everybody tastes different, same.
But I'm really glad that I tried different types of Madeira, because I would have then just sort of dismissed the concept of putting those with something as sweet as a piece of candy. But I'm glad that the Malmsey style redeemed all of that for me. And it's still, 30 seconds later, it still tastes really good in my mouth.
Did you try the Banyuls or the Tawny with that?
With the
Heath bar, the score bar you got?
Yeah, none of them. I didn't feel like any of them really were great. The Banyuls was okay. I would say that the Banyuls was a second, and the same with
Tawny Port, the 10-year Tawny.
Yeah. Yep. It's still because of that nuttiness, but it still was not. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like most of my wines and candies had their own like favorite pairing. So it was pretty cool. So do you have a last one?
I actually have 3 left.
Ooh, goodness.
But they're quick.
I feel like I've been hogging the spotlight here.
I have Twizzlers, strawberry licorice, right? And I'm going with the fruit, and I'm pairing with classic Pinot Noir because I'm highlighting that strawberry fruit with the fruitiness of a light Pinot Noir. 100% Pinot Noir with Twizzlers. Here's one, Kim. I don't know if you had this when you were a kid. I don't even know if they're still around, but we had these wax lips. They still have those?
Yeah, but I think you can only find them in like specialty candy stores.
They had like fangs and big gross teeth, right?
So where did you find wax lips to try?
I had just wax, the tubes. That's the other second part of the wax thing.
Oh, yeah.
The wax filled with sugar.
Sugar
water. But first, the wax, I just did the wax first because I wanted to get the reminiscence of wax lips I used to wear all around on Halloween. But I paired that with a Torrontés from an Argentinian white because I like the texture of the Torrontés with the wax. Is that geeky or what?
That's really out there.
the wax, like
I
the
was like,
oiliness.
how did you even come up with that idea?
Yeah, like you, I had a little Torrontés left over, and I said,
There you go.
I think this would work with, but then the wax, would they fill it with I guess it's just sugar water, different flavors.
Uh-huh.
Now, with that, it's kind of different. I would go with more of, what did I put with that? I totally forgot. Oh, the fruitiness of the wax. I, again, did that with Pinot Noir, and it worked. So
really?
Not as good as the Torrontés with just the wax.
I almost feel like you needed, if you could find like a almost sweet Gewürztraminer, if you liked it with the Torrontés, that maybe the Gewürz would work.
You know what else worked with when you combine the liquid and the wax was Riesling.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a drier Riesling.
Oh, interesting.
No, it wasn't sweet. And it worked. It wasn't as good as I thought as the Torrontés. And then the last one I did, Kim, was Skittles. I did that with just a regular Gamay.
Only the red Skittles or all of the Skittles?
All the fruity one. I did all the flavors. Some of them didn't match well, but most of them it still worked because of the fruitiness. And I would rather have had a Beaujolais Nouveau to do because I think it'd be more fruit and it would have worked with all of them a lot better. But a lot of sugar and it still held up nice. I also tried that with Pinot Noir. It didn't really work. So.
No, I will say that for Sour Patch Kids, different colors worked better with the Sauvignon Blanc than other colors. Like red did not work really well.
More tropical. They have those tropical.
They have all sorts of
too, don't they?
All sorts of flavors.
Yeah,
I had heard about doing Skittles, with as a pairing, but I didn't follow up on it. I'm like, I'm going to do all these traditional things.
Yeah, I think of all of them, Skittles was probably the more modern candy that I did. I tried to go more old school that I remember as a kid, and the wax thing was just, I don't know, just brought back memories, I guess.
So did we not have any overlap with our candies or our wines?
Well, Tawny, I had
just the Tawny Port.
That was it. But I mean, not for the same candy and not the same way. So yeah, that's interesting how
very cool.
I still say it has to do with the age thing, but we always approach food pairings different.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily I think that the candies you chose maybe showed your age a little bit more, but you have a very different philosophy when it comes to pairing wines with food than I do. And I think that these little things that we do are really fun because it showcases the many different ways that you can approach it, and that there isn't a right way and there isn't necessarily a wrong way. There's just your way, and find what works for you. And if you prefer sweeter wines with sweeter foods like I do, then kind of follow more the example that I'm doing here. But if you are a little bit more, dare I say it, creative, with your wine pairings, and you want to match flavors as opposed to sweetness levels or some of more of those textural elements, Mark's pretty creative when it comes to those pairings. So nice job.
Well, I think that's the whole thing in the wine world in general, right, Kim? Your palate and my palate are different. So what we feel we pair together is going to be different as well. But again, it goes back to the rule thing. Is there really anything wrong or bad if it's you think it tastes and matches up good? You know what I mean? Because a lot of things you were saying to me made perfect sense. Mm-hmm. Whereas you've certainly
surprised me with some of your pairings over the course of the last few years. I never would have put Sauvignon Blanc with those lemon Girl Scout cookies, but it was a surprisingly successful pairing. So I always learn something new and really embrace those things that are not things that I would immediately think about because they don't, it's not the first thing that comes to mind. Because I always go like, oh, sweet foods and sweet wines. But there are things out there that I do find pleasant. And I just need to maybe get out of my hole of feeling like, oh, it has to be sweet wine to go with the sweet food. So you expand my my mind and my horizons when we do these tastings together.
I think it's fun. We just have a different approach, and it's good to have someone to run things by that when you're thinking different. Not that I'm thinking I'm crazy all the time, and but you had some very unique wines that most of our listeners probably never even had either. I always try to think, I go back to when I was taking my first wine classes and I was in with these chefs and they had all these elaborate dishes they were talking about pairing, and they get to me and I'd say, yeah, Merlot and meatloaf. And they'll just look at me like, what's with this guy? But that's my food world. It was
But you know what's a great pairing? Merlot and meatloaf.
See, it worked, right?
It totally
worked.
Does.
And everybody else was talking about, frog gras, and I'm like, no, Merlot and meatloaf. That's all. Go. So everybody thinks different, but whatever works for you. I mean, we're just lucky if we get to access and know of these wines to be able to think of them to pair with food, where a lot of people just don't explore them as much. So that's why we want to let our listeners know that this stuff is out there. Hopefully the candies, the wax lips, we got to look for, but I think you'll find everything else.
I got all my candy at Walgreens, so I know it's all out there.
They're so small, though. It's just, it's so
I don't know.
Small.
I'm staring at a bunch of candy bars here that are half consumed. So,
what are you giving out for Halloween, Kim?
We usually do like a bag of mixed things. There's some peanut butter cups in there, and there's some Snickers, and there's some, things like that. Sometimes we do like the Skittles bags because my kids like Skittles and stuff like that. So usually it's a variety. Often we have to have peanut butter cups in the house because my husband really does like them. So sometimes we do favorites beverages?
Do you give out beverages? It's kind of the hot thing lately. These people giving away beers and shots. No one gives out wine. Do you notice that? We're going to change that.
No, see, because I'm the one who usually takes the kids out. I'm not the one handing out the candy. So I get the beers at my neighbor's house.
Yeah, it's always beer or nips, never wine. So people got to hand out wine to go with the chocolate when they're going through the kids' food after, right?
Right. Everyone's going to get like 2 ounces of Tawny Port at my house to go with their Snickers bars.
See, we should do that.
I'm not going to advertise that. You're not getting Tawny Port at my house. Sorry, everybody.
You've been listening to The Wonderful World of Wine, and we are your hosts, Mark Lindsay and Kim Simone. We're here every week on Franklin Radio, WFPR 102.9 FM. For more information about Kim, you can go to CommonwealthWineSchool.com. For more information about myself, please go to FranklinLiquors.com. If you have any questions or comments on Kim's Halloween pairings, please go to Facebook and let us know what you think and tell us what you had on Halloween with wine. And you can find our past episodes on SoundCloud or iTunes. Cheers.
Bye.